How's up, everyone? Today, I'm going to do a review of Wō Fallen Dynasty that I've been holding off for the last couple days. See, I'm the type to only review games after I've beaten it, and I've beaten the game for a good while before release, but I also felt that in order to get the whole picture, I need to see how others handle the game to form the best overall opinion on the matter. So okay, maybe I got a bit lazy, but I think a bit of delay is alright. So anyway, without further ado, let us begin. So first, let's go over the gameplay, as that's the most important thing. Let's address the elephant in the room. I think the whole negative reviews on Steam because of keyboard and mouse to be ridiculous. Honestly, I think people complain just for the sake of complaining. Like, they've had ample opportunity to know that keyboard and mouse doesn't work out for them in the demo. Which, by the way, the demo had a peak 57,000 players at one point. The full game have a good near 76,000 peak at the time of writing, had 63,000 players online at the time, which is the best Koei has ever done on Steam. So with these numbers, it stands to reason that a good chunk of them had already tried the demo, and it really doesn't make sense how one can make a negative review on the game when they haven't actually played it, or so they claim, because of keyboard and mouse issues. I think personally this is more of a Steam issue, as review bombing is a bit of a common culture these days. Yeah, I mean, it's a game ported to the PC after all, so it only stands to reason that it should work on the basic controls of a PC, which is keyboard and mouse. But the thing is, I think games like these, like Sekiro, are simply made for controllers. Playing Souls games on keyboard and mouse is, I don't know, especially with Sekiro, where you have to do all the deflecting. It's kind of annoying to do it on keyboard and mouse. I mean, you can still play it on keyboard and mouse, but it'll be like using a hammer on a screw. It'll be messy, and I really don't see the point on blaming the rest of the game, because the game is actually not that bad. I mean, sure, okay, fine. I mean, I have my personal grievances with this game too. Plenty of it. Like, for one thing, the deflect button being shared with the dodge button. So if I were to double tap by accident because of a panic press, I end up dodging, and, because I want to make sure this button is actually working when I want it, I tend to subconsciously press it more than once. So, I might end up dodging and ruining my entire rhythm, and perhaps even get hit on top of that. The way Sekiro does it makes the most sense, using it as an extension of the block button. So, like, we even had something like this in Dynasty Warriors 4 for a million years ago, for God's sake. Like, I don't know why we're using it now together as the same button as the dodge button. And then, on top of this, there are, like, camera angle and targeting issues. Oh, that's
Why are you targeting him through there, not this guy? I don't get this game's targeting system.
Those are fun. And another annoyance is that you can't cancel your combo to parry red attacks. So slow weapons have a distinct disadvantage unless you have some way of exploiting it, like weapon skills, like Guan Yu's weapon skills, where you jump all around the place. But I use twin swords myself, and when I use twin swords, compared to a hammer, the difference is truly night and day. In fact, I think it lowers the difficulty like 2 levels at least. Now, the morale system that this game has, I found to be kind of stupid, to be honest. I think the whole thing is just busy work to keep you from rushing down a map. Worse yet, it is a system that locks your spells away, so it's a bit of an annoying constraint. I would prefer morale to be a thing that flows throughout a single battle rather than through the whole map. And I really don't like the idea of farming a whole map just so I have enough morale to fight a boss. But really, ultimately, I really wouldn't miss this system if it was gone. So another annoying example. I find out that when I buy ammo for my ranged weapons, any extra goes to storage. I mean, that's pretty normal, right? Well, that would have been if I actually could get ammo from my storage at all from the battle flags. No. Instead, it gets transferred to this lady, and she holds on to it for me. And I can't get a reload of my ammo unless I go back to town. Or I guess I could buy from the flag. But, you know, then what would be the point? Look, if I want to get ammo, I could just buy from the flags, like I said. So what would be the whole point of having me make the whole trip back to town and start my map all over again? I spent all that money for extra ammo so I could refill at the flag. But as it turns out, that was a complete waste of time because I have to actually go back to town to pick up those extra ammo. So I might as well just use the feature from the flag and just purchase myself to full whenever I could. Honestly, I have no idea what they were thinking with this. I mean, it's a really minor gripe, but, you know, that's the type of mistakes that comes from someone who doesn't actually play the game. To top it all off, there are some frequent crashing issues. Like, I mean, not all the time, but often enough that it at least happens once or twice per day, so it's pretty damn annoying.
I guess he couldn't jump back. Yeah. Oh, my game froze. Uh-oh.
Especially since if it happens at the end of a boss fight, then you're going to have to do that boss fight again. Among other things. Anyway, so it seems like I'm just complaining. I mean, these are, to me, some fairly minor things. Annoyances. I got used to them. Because the core gameplay of the game is pretty fun. The action flows rather nicely with optimal graphics settings. I mean, like, by optimal, I mean, like, you know, if you have a good computer, you turn everything up, or if you have a crappy one, you turn everything down, kind of thing. I have no complaints about the parrying system of this game in general. Some say it's too easy, some say it's too hard, or whatever. But I think the window is actually rather generous, and I think it's kind of fair, actually, most of the time. The spirit system tied to it, though, is a bit awkward because everything uses spirit in its own stamina system. So, in order for you to do spell casting, you have to get in close to fight, melee, or dodge an attack before you can cast another spell again. Unlike Sekiro, where you have like a certain amount of cast in a single fight, you basically have to risk your life, and if you were to say be melee range, couldn't parry or something, and you just cast a spell, any hit would knock you stunned, and you could potentially die if your parry game is not up to par. But I guess if you have an understanding of the game mechanics and how the boss is handled, being aggressive and parrying and using spells and martial arts is very rewarding. It makes the game fun to play. But, well, if you're trying to haphazardly cast spells, it's going to be kind of troublesome. Not to mention, I honestly think that the spells in the game, it doesn't really do all that much damage. But anyway, now I wouldn't say that the gameplay so far is like super amazing or anything, because while the action flows nicely, the enemy AI does have some issues where they'll fall for the same tricks over and over again. Especially martial arts. So if I'm using this dual sword, I can infinitely combo the enemy to death as long as they can be staggered and I have the spirit to keep spinning, which is fine because, you know, as long as they're staggered, they will try to block if I try to hit them, and when I try to hit them, my spirit will come back and I get to spin again. However, what comes next is especially dumb. See, I'm busy pummeling Sun Ce, and Sun Jian decides that you'll join the fight. They're great. And he one-shots me from behind with a blind angle. Granted, I mean, I'm playing on the highest difficulty in the game, so getting one-shot from full health is something I kind of should expect. But the problem is that kind of system is not meant to be like Dynasty Warriors. So, I mean, like, you don't fight full bosses in Sekiro, you have to fight, like, 2 at a time. So maps like these... I mean, maps like these where I have to fight like 2 or even 3, it gets really stupid because you can only reasonably parry so much while damaging one opponent at a time. An attack can just come from a blind angle and then you just die. Yeah, I mean, look, yeah, that kind of stuff does happen in Sekiro too, but those are not boss fights. It's because you poorly plan your moves while you're moving around the map. But here, there are maps where you actually have to fight multiple opponents at a time to beat these missions. So it makes it a bit tough for conventional combat. You have to think of some cheap tricks to get out of it. Now there are ways to beat these guys. As aforementioned, the AI is kind of dumb to certain attacks, but I think that really speaks more of the game's flaws than anything else. Ultimately, I discovered that everyone's opinion on this game is polarizing. Some say the game's pretty easy, while there are others who find it pretty tough. Like, say, the first fight with Zhang Liang, people have been saying that the battle is incredibly tough. Or the battle against Lu Bu, people say it's incredibly tough. But I think those fights are more of a trial by fire thing, or a skill test thing that once you get past it, and once you get used to the game mechanics, you can then truly appreciate the game for what it is. The game also features a New Game Plus game mode known as Rising Dragon for those who wishes to have a greater challenge, a tougher challenge. For the record, I beat the game in about 30 hours myself, and despite these problems I've listed, I enjoyed every minute of it. While I personally think that the story is kind of stupid, and without spoiling anything, I think the story really lacks cohesion in some places and doesn't make use of Three Kingdoms story as well as it should, takes too much liberty. You also have stupid things where Big D could make crates upon crates disappear from a guy you were literally just chasing behind like 2 seconds ago just to make the story move along. Well, it's not really a big deal because the game is kind of fun, and story for Souls games are kind of like a side dish. I mean, how do I say it? The game itself is kind of like Nioh 1. Like how it's okay, but Nioh 2 was great. So I have no doubt that Team Ninja could probably do a much better job on a sequel. Now, other things I find kind of lacking is the variety of enemies. That also isn't too big an issue, because the weapon variety itself could make up for it in a player's hand. That there are like dominant weapons, sure, so your choices are kind of limited in that way. But for enemies, these differing weapons really makes these human opponents interesting to fight. Now, it's a bit unfortunate that the monster types and animal types are a bit lacking, but if Wulong does well and have a sequel, I think that if you're an action games fan, this game can still appeal to you. Play it for what it is. A Nioh based on the Three Kingdoms. I personally think that's what gives it the fame that it has on Steam. Being, Three Kingdoms and all. Unfortunately, that being popular in itself is also a downside, which makes it susceptible to rampant downvotes if a port is not done well. People get offended easily, they like to nitpick after all. I, for one, think that the concept and the background of this game to be most wonderful, since I've always wanted more Three Kingdoms stuff, and I find that Jesus Zhang Jiao's theme in this game is amazing. Oh shit, watch out!
He's dead again.
Just picked him up and now he's down again.
He's down again.
You might as well forget about him, because whatever that shit is he's doing, I don't think it's safe for you to revive.
Oh no!
Jesus fucking killed your ass again! That, and I honestly didn't care too much for Nioh, because I didn't care too much for Japanese Sengoku Jidai nearly as much as the Sankoku Jidai of Three Kingdoms. Too bad though, I mean, the game does get marred with all these weird problems I listed earlier. It makes it... I would rate the game 6 or 7 out of 10. Yeah, it's a 6 or 7 out of 10 game for me. It's still fun, but definitely could use a lot of improvements. Well, that's about it. I thank you all for watching. Until next time.